Hey Alex, now you've finished all of your bodybuilding competitions. What did you learn from it, and what's the plan for the future? I say, I thought you'd never ask. And why are you reading an Aldi magazine upside down? For the bargains, my friend, for the bargains. Hey everybody, and welcome to another video with myself, Alex. And in this video, guys, I want to break down, have a bit of a recap of my competition period. So, what I learned mainly from the stage, things that I taken out of it the most, and then perhaps some advice as well for you as the viewer or as the athlete or someone who's perhaps looking at competing as well, or even if you're just into your health and fitness, some maybe some principles that you can take away from it to better help you in your own life. And I just want to do a little bit of a debrief myself as well, and just kind of voice my thoughts, feedbacks, and my experiences. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'm sure that you'll take something positive from it as well. So let's get started. I want to start with the things that I took out the most, like the main key principles I learned from comp prep, and then I'll move on to my reverse dieting approach, kind of what I did after the comps. It's only been 1 week, by the way, and then what my approach is going forward into the future too. And this is going to be the last episode in the series, but not to worry, I am going to continue these videos because I'm going to be pumping out one a week in relation to training, nutrition, or lifestyle. So there's going to be some educational videos, some more entertaining, some more training based, some more nutrition videos and vlogs in there. So I'm just going to put it out there, and whatever you guys want to see, I will put more of that stuff out there too. So thank you once again for watching as always, and let's get started with this video. One of the main things I learned, I kind of broke it down to like 3 things and then like some subcategories within that. So the first thing that I learned that I took out of my comp prep was gratitude, okay? And what do I mean by that, apart from the obvious? So being grateful for things, but on a totally different level. Like, for me, it was not taking things for granted. Now, I'd like to think that I've developed a lot of gratitude in my life, especially through the experiences I've had. But in comp prep, everything is just high definition. It gets to a point where you're almost very tunnel visioned, you're very focused on this one thing, mainly because that's all you have the energy for. So you do become very grateful for those things, but also the things that you may have took for granted, especially if you've not competed before, you've not been to this low body fat levels before. Now, I certainly have experienced a lot of the things before, because I have ran many extended fat loss phases, if you like, where I have got relatively very, very lean. I'd say, at least physique lean, but always making improvements on it. And I remember the first time I did a cut was absolutely horrendous, which would probably be a fun video as well. I don't know, I didn't end up in hospital. The amount of calories I was on was so minimal, and I almost wasted away to nothing, and I was in that phase for too long, and I just splurged after it. It was terrible, but you get better at it, and it's all experience and it's all valid feedback. And I think going through those past times give me a mental toughness to be able to apply this. So it wasn't such a foreign feeling, but there were definitely things that I not experienced before, or the intensity of those feelings, like the loss of energy, was just, wow, that was unreal. Like, I can't describe to you, even like looking at a set of stairs or trying to get up a set of stairs was just a marathon. Sometimes waking up every day knowing that you just, you had to get through your training, and you only had X amount of food, and you all of a sudden, like, you get these mental battles. And as someone who's very positive, that was hard to deal with, because I'm not someone who generally has negative thoughts that much. I mean, we all have our days, etc., but I've built myself up to be fairly positive. You know, I've worked a lot on myself, my inner self, etc., you know, the mind. I'm very fascinated with that. But having those battles, sometimes it was like, wow, how am I going to get through this? And you see the finish line was weeks away, and it would just feel like hell. But at the same time, you wanted to take each day as it comes, and you don't want to almost rush to that finish line because you've got to enjoy the process. So enjoying it was great, but there were times where it was just complete hell on earth, and only someone who's been in comp prep can sort of relate to that. And again, I'm not saying this to put anyone off, this is just my experiences and my thoughts, and maybe something that you can take away. That said, I think that I could have had smarter approaches, which I will chat to you about, and how I want to do things differently next time. But yeah, so I think feeling those feelings makes you very grateful. Makes you very grateful for the simple things like having energy, having clarity, having positivity, the people you have around you as well, even just waking up and not feeling like shit, and knowing that you've actually got some food to enjoy that day, because all you think about is food. You just become very, very focused on these key things, and you forget about everything else, your relationships, your job, your work. You just want to find the straightest line between 2 points and just get through the day. And that is a bit of a shame, because, you know, usually with our training, we really enjoy it. It's my favorite part of the day. I still enjoyed my training during that time, but it was just a lot harder, and it was everything else. I knew that after I trained, my energy would just go from like shit to just nothing. And that's when, like, you just, the mental cognitivity as well, and the hunger that you face really sort of, yeah, that separates the men from the boys to a degree, to who really get shredded. And again, I think there's smarter ways of doing it, which I want to explore. I think I enjoyed probably too much pain. You know, speaking to some fellow coaches and athletes, I think there's definitely some things we could have done that would have made it, we could, you know, coming in with a better physique and a better package, and also making the process, you know, a lot better too. But again, it was all great learning. Like, it sounds stupid, but, you know, you can get to a point where you're so low in calories that you just don't have the availability or the money, calorie money, as I like to refer it to, as you know, to be able to eat fruits, lots of fruits and fibrous vegetables, because you just can't afford it, because your macros are so low. And obviously fruits are high in sugar, carbohydrates, etc., vitamins, minerals, they're great, but you can't be going just smashing apples and bananas, you know, and they're the things that I usually eat on a daily basis. So it's so nice to just be able to eat those things again and implement those in, because they are good for the body. But, you know, even having an apple, you're like, wow, this is amazing, you know, which you should, you know, take it, you know, you should be grateful for it, because there are, you know, starving people in the world. I don't want to be that guy, but, you know, there are people who go without, and you realize how grateful you are for those basic things. And it's the same with the relationships too. You forget, like, you neglect them, you don't have that same passion, you know, you lose your sex drive. It's weird, as a man, probably as weird as a woman, but as a man, you know, we're very, you know, high testosterone. When we train, the sex drive is very high, and to have that disappear and just to not have that want or that need physiologically is a very strange feeling, because you're just focused on food, or you're training, or getting through the day. And that can be hard when you're in a relationship. I'm a single man, but I imagine that if you have got a partner, that can be very tough as well on them, especially if they're not in comp prep, not just because of that lack of affection or intimacy, but perhaps because of the lack of understanding and even the attention too. And I know there's a lot of older bodybuilders who are very good at combating that, and they don't neglect that, but to some degree you just lose that edge or that care factor massively. Like, you still love the people in your life, like your friends, your family, but you just don't have that energy. Which, you know, is tough. It can be very, very tough. Discipline. I think of myself as a fairly disciplined person, but this was a whole new level entirely. This really, really pushed me to levels that I'd not experienced before, and I feel like now I have, you know, maybe my discipline was here, and now it's like here. It's even more, because it's, as I explain to my clients, the off season, if we think about a road, the road is wide, and the off season we can really sort of swerve around on that road and stay within it, and we've got a lot of flexibility and a room for movement. When you're in comp prep, you've got to stay right on the edge of that white line all the time, because if you veer too far off, you lose progress and you get off track, and that's not something you can afford to do too often. So your element of flexibility, and even mentally, telling yourself, wow, okay, this is not forever, but for this period of time, it's going to be so on point, at some point wears you down. Because when your body fat levels get that low, there is nothing, even if you are on the highest amount of calories in the world, once your body fat gets so low, the body doesn't want to be there. It will start to kick back. It will make you very food focused, very driven. I use the analogy of a vampire. You become like a vampire. Your sense of smell increases, your touch, just everything is heightened. But some of it is a negative way, because you're so distracted or so focused on those things. You have to learn to, as I imagine a newfound vampire would do, to focus on those things which are positive, and not necessarily things that are going to tempt you and lead you into splurging or giving into your cravings. It's almost like you'd be walking around, and if you're a vampire, you just want to bite everyone's neck and suck their blood, but you can't do that. And it's the same with food. You go around and you go to the supermarket, you just want to eat everything, and if you just let it go, you can't hold back. You just lose yourself. So I think everyone in comp prep knows that feeling. So that is something that newfound discipline, being able to not do that for a elongated period of time in a very vulnerable state, is something that I learned, which I know will serve me well in the future, because I feel that discipline I can apply to my business life, my social life, my professional life, my financial status, etc. And it does stand you in good stead, because you can sort of go, okay, look at things objectively. Yes, I need to be disciplined here, and no, I don't, but know that you can do that if you need to. And now that now that I have more flexibility, that discipline is so much better placed, because it's so much easier to implement, knowing that you can have that discipline, but you've still got that room for flexibility as well. And being in a more positive and stable mindset, you can apply a lot better too. I think also the mental toughness that you get from it as well. For me, again, I think I went through, I suffered a bit more than I had to on probably a couple of my first cuts. But again, it's been great, because if I can go through that, what else can I push through? I can take my training to new levels, because I can push through those pain periods without being stupid. I can look at things more objectively. I can better analyze, how I feel when I run a cut in the future, when I compete in the future, which I will. I'll be able to be much better placed that when I have to dig, I can get my head down and do it, and not know that, okay, this is not normal, or I can just get it done, get in, get out, and keep progressing as well. Approaching balance and lifestyle, and having that sanity. So again, knowing what is the pain that you need to go through versus what is unnecessary, because there is a point where, because everyone's got a different level of like a pain threshold, etc., and you don't know what you don't know, so you might be going through more pain, but if you don't know those key signals to know, okay, this is too much, or I'm just being a little bitch, it's hard to gauge. So I think learning to calibrate that has been really, really vital for me, and I'm really energized and excited by that, and to put it to good use for my clients, for myself, for future success, and in other areas too. So yeah, that's discipline has been uncanny, new levels of it. Point number 3, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Wow, I want this tattooed on my forehead. Now the more I go through life, the more I experience, the more this philosophy, this saying is becoming ingrained. I find it's the key. One of the big keys, I think, to having an organized, balanced life, and having that mental clarity, keeping it simple, is so overlooked. And I'm someone who's very creative, as you know. I'm very passionate, and I have a tendency to overthink things. I used to overthink things dramatically. I'm a lot better at it now, but keeping it simple can always bring you back to what is the priority and bring you back on track so you can actually get ahead and do what you need to do more productively as well. And this could not be more true in comp prep. Keeping it simple in everything, in terms of nutrition, in terms of training, in terms of the way you get through your day, because you just don't have time for waste. You have to cut out all the waste. Mainly because A, again, you just don't have that energy for it, but B, you need to be very productive with your time because you've got a limited amount of energy, you've got a limited amount of resources, so you're running on a really tight budget in comp prep, if you like. So you got to be wise with that. So keeping things simple and learning to not be distracted or not waste your energy on things that are not conducive or important to the main goal is vital for success. And it's so easy to get distracted because, as I referenced earlier, you do become very vulnerable, with food, with your mental capabilities, your sleep, your training. It's easy to just get off track and wander around the supermarket aimlessly looking at food labels, which I'm sure we've all done and some of us still do. And I think this is a principle that comes up a lot in business as well and other elements. So again, you can apply this to every area of your life, and I'm definitely doing that. But even more so in comp prep. So with the food, it was like, don't try and fit things that are unnecessary into your nutrition regime just in spite of having, something that might taste a little bit better, because A, you'll spend so much time in the kitchen trying to prep this food or this meal, this dessert or this recipe for no reason. Two, it might not even give you the nutritional satiety that you need versus something that's just a simple food like a vegetable. And at the end of the day, it can sort of encourage you to have this relationship with food where you're constantly seeking that the taste bud approval, which you do want to enjoy your meals. I'm not saying you should eat bland, but sometimes you just got to keep it simple in comp prep and give your body what it needs as fuel as well as taste. And I think if you're constantly seeking just the taste and the flavor in comp prep, it's just another distraction, it's another waste of time, and it's just going to bring you further off track. So I think sticking to a meal plan, and as you gradually have to reduce calories and when you increase them on your refeed day, have foods, have pre-planned meals there, because A, you know how they're going to react to your body. I had a few meals where I was eating them and it didn't really sit well with me, and I think that was a big learning. The foods were because they were so low calorie, they can have a lot of processed stuffs in them. Like there was a soup I was having at one point and some noodles, and they were really low calorie, and they kind of filled me up, but they didn't make me feel too good, and they didn't really go well with my gut. So again, you've got to always listen to your body and be aware of the response. How's my body responding to this? Some foods would just not agree great with certain people to a degree. Again, we can go into that majorly. That could just be because you've not had it for a long time, or again, you might be having too much or something like that. But generally, if you eat a food and you don't feel good after eating it, and it's a consistent thing, remove it from your diet. Simple as. And so that's what I did. But probably could have done that earlier, probably wasted a bit of time where I could have been having something different, even within like a calorie range. So keeping it simple with nutrition is massive. Plus, especially in comp prep, you need to know how your body's going to respond. You need to know how it's going to look. And if you get that consistency, it's easy. It will save you time, it will save you frustration, guesswork, everything. You know how your body's going to look, you know what meals you're prepping, and you know how to prepare going forward into competitions and going into refeed days, or when you're doing your meal prep in the weeks, you can just get it done. So that was a big thing for me. I think keeping it simple, especially with nutrition. Same with training, a little less so in terms of training. You want to keep it simple. You're generally going to be doing something similar to the off season. You're just not going to have the amount of calories available there, or the amount of volume at some point, because you don't have the energy. So you've got to try and maintain as much strength as you can. You can generally gain, to that point, a decent amount of strength and even build a bit of muscle as well into your comp prep. But for the most part, you're going to be, especially as an advanced athlete, if you've been training for many years, you're going to be looking at just maintaining. So Biggest myth is you go and you start lifting all these light weights, doing all the cardio, not what you want to do at all. Okay, you want to keep your cardio to a minimum, you want to keep the strength training to a maximum, and you want to maintain as much strength strategically as you can. So some smart programming can come in there, but again, the element of simplicity, sticking to the movements that work. Don't go and change your programming around and do something completely different, because why would you do that? Like, you've just been doing something that worked, you've been gaining muscle, gaining strength. Don't just take it away. And I think that mental element comes in there as well. A lot of people go, I'm going into a cut now, I'm going into a shred, I'm going to lose muscle, I'm going to lose strength. Bollocks. If you think like that, that's what's going to happen. You've got to go in there with that positivity, that discipline, that mindset, that intensity, without killing yourself, so you can still recover and actually do your next workouts, but still training at a level which is advantageous of maintaining muscle mass. Now, it doesn't take as much volume to maintain as it does to grow, but you still need to capitalize on it as much as you can. So you want to gain as much strength and continue on that positive journey of, making progress for as long as you can. And then at some point, yes, you might lose a bit of strength, but don't think mentally, okay, that's it now, it's going down the drain. You want to keep going, because you have your good and bad weeks. Even in off season, there are weeks that are shit. It's just the way it is. Sleep can affect that massively, as well as nutrition, hydration. There's so many variables. Even your mindset, you might just need to deload, etc. But you got to go in with that mindset of, I can do this, I'm going to smash this out, I'm going to apply myself, and just don't think about it as comp prep. Just think about this as just a normal day, and try and put those feelings to one side. And again, having that simplicity and that approach will really help. And that is something that really helped me, and towards the end, just making things even more simple. If you've got that consistency, you know what you're going to expect. I've listened to a lot of coaches, a lot of podcasts. I'm always asking questions, as some of my fellow coaches will know. I'm always researching, but I'm trying to apply it and not just read and overwhelm myself with information, but I'm trying to segregate, the knowledge and the experience from people who have it anecdotally, who have actually done it, been there, take that out. And the big thing that came out of it in this element was, if you want to use foods that react well with your body, and you want to keep it really, really simple. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. The things that have worked will always work to a degree. And that was something that helped going into my second and third, fourth competitions, of keeping it simple, not trying to glam up the food too much, or use too many artificial sweeteners and preservatives just to get that, feel in. And then I just knew how my body was reacting. It was better on my gut health, it was better on my mind, because I knew how I was going to react, I knew how I was going to look, and being able to manipulate the body with, then sodium and water and, carbohydrate was so much more accurate and so much easier. So again, keeping it simple was massive. But anyway, they're the three main things that I took out of it. Comp prep, of course, there's a lot more in between, but they are the three main themes, if you like, that looking back, especially at this point, I'm not fully recovered yet, so there'll be more things along the way, but they're the main things that I took out of it, in terms of a learning curve. I've built some stronger relationships too, which has been great with certain people. You move closer to people, you move away from people, so that's one thing I'm very thankful for as well, and everyone's support and understanding for that matter too. Moving on to the plan ahead and what kind of happened after the comp and how I approached it. Generally, I had a plan, and some great advice is have a plan after comp prep. Don't just go and binge and wing it. So with the comp day was on a Saturday, and then we had a team dinner on the Sunday. So of course you want to go ballistic, but you got to kind of have some sort of restrictive or some sort of cap on it. Because if you just keep eating, you're just going to get really fat. You're not going to feel good. That initial novelty is going to wear off, and you're going to regain all this body fat, and you're going to be in a position which you don't want to be in, because you've worked so hard to get into condition. Why would you throw that all away? So you want to have some treats. You want to definitely get the body fat levels initially a little bit higher, because you're in a place that is very vulnerable, and then you're not as likely to binge. And if you've got a bit of a strategy as well, you can get out there and maintain a leaner physique, which is good, because at some point you're going to have to do another cut again, so you don't want to get too far ahead. And mentally, you don't want to look in the mirror after comp prep and have the comp prep post comp prep blues and not have a goal, feel like you look like shit because you've lost your physique as well. Keep eating and then try and do this binge cut, which is really dangerous, and you end up in this really vicious cycle. So have a plan. So the plan that I had was the Saturday after the show, we went out with my mum and dad. I had something that I've been craving. It wasn't crazy. Again, learning from past experiences where I did just go stupid. I chose foods that were not too calorically dense or too overly processed so they would agree with my body, and I didn't go over the top. And I made sure, and I'm very proud of this, that, and not once have I done this, it's been 1 week after comp prep, eaten to the point where I felt sick. And that is usually something I do because I'm a greedy person anyway. And when you're after and you're at a comp, you fucking bam. It's like no holds barred. But again, having that discipline as an athlete, again, that respect for yourself, it was, yes, I'm going to enjoy myself, but we've got to put some boundaries in place here. So not eating to make myself feel sick was the biggest one. I had the treats obviously on the show day, so I pretty much just finished off my carbohydrates that I packed. So I had like some crisps or chips for you guys over this part of the world, so it was a small bag. I finished off that bag. I had some snakes left for carbohydrates, and I finished that. And then I packed in a jelly and some vegetables for myself because I knew I'd be really hungry. So I've been having like jelly with yogurt because I knew that would fill me up, and it was something that I could put in. And vegetables because I had no fiber that day, and again, I wanted to get something good in. I knew it would make me feel better and satiate my hunger, so I had that too. And I was really low in protein. I knew I would be because generally you don't want loads of protein before the day of the show, or should I say the morning of the show. So I had a couple of protein bars. Again, I tracked pretty much everything, apart from maybe the odd like slice of brownie, like little testers. So I knew what calories I was consuming, and because I'm a data freak, I want to look back and always be able to go, okay, what did I do, what worked and what didn't at this time, and how was I looking? Because for me, that's vital. Every time I look back, I can see exactly what I ate to a degree, exactly how my body responded, what day it was, what weights I was lifting. So tracking things is just so valuable to be able to manipulate the body in the future and see what worked and what didn't and make improvements. And at the very least, it's fun just to look back and see the progress too. So we went out and we had a grilled meal. So I had a burger. I had like a chicken burger, like a double chicken satay. People know from grilled, I think it's like what was it now? I don't know. You guys probably know the name of them. But anyway, when I went there, I had a double because it was low in protein, which was cool. I had some sweet potato fries, and my mum and dad, they had like the zucchini fries, which are awesome. So I had a few of those too. Amazing. On the walk there, I've been craving these Spanish donuts. They're like the churros, but there was, in Service Paradise where I live, there's just like a plethora of food. So you can imagine me walking through for months. I had like a bit of a list, but I knew that I want to work through that list slowly. I wasn't just going to go ham and go straight through it. So I had one of those churros as well, which was beautiful. It was a Nutella one, and I had the burger. And I finished off the evening with some Halo Top ice cream. So again, instead of having something like a Ben & Jerry's full cream or like the connoisseur, instead of being like 2,000-3,000 calories and feeling like shit and eating way too much, you go for something like a Halo Top, which is a lot lower in calorie and easier on the stomach. And I felt great. I had my grilled, I was like full. I was like, right, stop there. Had a shower, do what I need to do, got the tan off, and then relaxed with some Halo Top ice cream. That was beautiful. And I knew I was going to have some food the next day as well, so I didn't want to go too ham. The next day of the show, I kept my steps up. I walked all the way from here to Sheraton, so I clocked up about 25,000 steps for the day too. I kept it relatively the same, so just woke up and just had foods that I just wanted to eat. But it was just simple. It was just like oats, it was like banana, rice cakes with jam, a bit of honey, a bit of peanut butter, but again, all tracked. I had a normal lunch with chicken and veggies, a jelly. I enjoyed a mocha coffee, which I've been craving from Starbucks. And then that night at the team dinner, I had a full rack of ribs and some sweet potato fries. And again, tracked it all. It was about, I think, 6,000 Saturday calories with the carb up and 4,000 on the Sunday as well. And then I was straight back onto a plan. I made an initial increase of 500 calories, mainly through fats and carbohydrates, kept protein as a standard because the main thing is I'm going to reverse these adverse effects of dieting, so I wanted to keep my fats a little bit, get a decent jump on them without going too over the top, and obviously replenish glycogen and carbohydrate stores, which would have definitely been topped up from the previous days. Now, those macros are now about 2,500 calories, so I'm on 215 protein, I'm on 250 carbohydrate and I'm on 50 grams of fat. Now I'm going to slightly bump up my carbs this week, just a little bit, because I want some intra-workout carbs. So I'm going to put just 20 carbohydrates in there, keep everything else the same until the 2-week marker, and I'm going to reassess. And generally every 2 weeks is when I'm going to make my adjustments, depending on how my weight goes. If it's skyrocketing, which it won't do, obviously I'm eating too much, and if it's just decreasing, then I'm losing weight, and if it's maintenance, then I might have found maintenance. But keeping in mind that glycogen stores are now increasing, so that means water is going to be increasing, therefore scale weight is going to increase. I've got to keep in mind that my training as well is going to progressively overload. I've took this last week as a deload, went in and ran my new training split, training everything 2 to 3 days a week. We'll make a full breakdown video on that too, and probably the nutrition. Now reversing out, I want to be putting on 0.25 to 0.75, a bit more conservative, percent of my body weight per month. So initially it's going to climb a little bit faster because of the increase in calories and obviously the glycogen stores, and then it will start to taper off as well. And initially, what is the recovery diet? What is the reverse diet? Really quickly, recovery diet is that time straight after the competition for about a month. It's the time where the body's at the most vulnerable. That's why we call it, or I refer to it, we refer to it in the industry, or some of us, as the recovery diet, because basically that is where you make your biggest increase in calories. It's where the body is at its most vulnerable time, mentally, physically, and all that. And once you're out of that, then I think we call it more the reverse diet, because the reverse diet will and can take up to a few months, because you want to continually drive calories as high as possible. There's different views and different protocols. I like to take somewhere sliced in the middle. Don't want to go too fast and I don't want to go too slow. Why would I not want to go too slow? Well, I'm not going to be getting back into a gaining phase as quickly, so I'm wasting time, and 2, I'm probably going to suffer more with the calories, and I'm going to be more likely to binge. And why I don't want to go too fast is because I don't want to put on too much body fat, because I've worked so hard to maintain my conditioning. I'm not going to get any improved performance from shooting up too fast into a really high body fat level, and it's not really going to do anything for my performance on my overall mental clarity or positivity either. So I think finding that balance is key. Again, we'll break that down in another video and talk about it in depth. That's been my strategy, guys, and I'm only literally 1.5 kilos. 2 kilos was the heaviest I've been. I'm floating around 1 kilo, 1.5 kilos over stage weight, which is pretty phenomenal considering past experiences and how people can generally blow out to 5 and 10 kilos and really go off the rails. But again, having that past experience cutting, I think, really helped. Had a bit of a blowout. The only little splurge I had was this Friday. I was doing a promo gig and I had a bit of a splurge with some things that I was craving. But again, only doing that once a week and not doing it all the time, and not eating to the point where I felt like just sick and I couldn't move, meant that I, of course, probably gained a little bit of weight from that, but my body weight's now almost back down, and the same with the look as well. So I made a bit of a, I'm only human, error there, accepted the consequences from it, but didn't beat myself up mentally, acknowledged it, ran a little bit lower the next day purely because I had so much and I wasn't super hungry. But again, was not going to get into that binge cut cycle, straight back on the macros, trained hard, made sure I use those calories positively. So if you binge, that's one of the best ways to do it. But again, having the higher calories is going to help me be less likely to binge, but a moment of weakness there, because again, the week after, still really hungry, but again, now increasing and back on track. So maybe got that out of my system and ticking things off my food list. Generally once a week, I go for a coffee with my mum, and that's where I use that time to, I've got 5 or 6 days on my macros, and then one day I'm a little bit more flexible. Again, still tracking the foods, but allowing myself a little bit more. I usually do that on the day that I work the longest, and on one of my days, which is within my heavier days of training, if you like. So it can be utilized, those calories, more efficiently, but it also allows me to tick something off my list, give me some clarity, so I'm not just on this rigid meal plan, which I've been doing for months, and I can actually enjoy something that I've been craving. And as my calories rise, I will choose foods on my list which I am craving that are more dense. So starting off with the more low calorie things like, the drinks, etc. It might be a little bit of banana bread, and then moving on to the things like donuts and burgers, or again, that's if I'm still craving them at that point, because you'll notice you think very differently from comp prep to off season. Once you're well fed, you don't have that sort of dying hunger anymore, or that innate focus on just food. The last thing that I want to chat about before I go is any advice for someone who's looking to compete. And to break it down, my advice for someone looking to compete is the first thing is you need to find your why. Why are you competing? It's the same in business, it's the same in anything. If you don't have that burning why, if you don't know why you are doing it, you will fail. Because when it gets tough, when it gets hard, and it will, like anything, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you need to know why you're doing it. And I personally think a lot of people are just getting on stage and taking it too lightly. It's not something that you should be feared or scared of, but you need to know that if you want to do this properly, if you want to give yourself the best chance to seek your potential, you need to have that burning desire of why. Because if you don't, you're going to go into it half-assed, and when it gets hard, you're not going to know what to do, where to go, and you're most likely going to get off track or not bring your best package, and that's not fair on you, to yourself, or anyone else around you, because it does take a lot of sacrifice and discipline. So knowing your why, I think doing your research as well, research the competitions you want to do, know how it works, turn up to them, go to them in the off season, familiarize yourself with the rules, the regulations, and preparation in terms of posing as well, and your tan, your trunks. Know your poses. People leave it to the last 6 weeks. You might have the best physique on the day, but if you can't pose, it doesn't matter. So I would be doing that. I did it probably excessively, I started like a year out to a degree, but I didn't do it like every single day. I just started with like maybe once every 2 weeks and sort of refined it from there. But it is something that I enjoy, and I'm going to keep doing it because it's part of my art, it's part of my craft. So I'm going to keep that up as a regularity. So I encourage you to do that. And again, learn from people who are great posers, learn from the pros, learn from people who can fast forward your progress rather than you learning it the wrong way and then you've got to relearn it. Of course you're going to find your style, but you really want to sort of put some time into that. Knowing the tan you're going to put on, maybe test it out, see if it reacts well with your skin, find out what the best tan is, how to get it off, your trunks, what trunks are you going to get, what color, what material. It might seem a bit excessive, but the thing is, when you're in comp prep, it's one less thing to think about. And again, like I said before, you are just not in that headspace to make all these decisions because you're so fatigued. So the easier you can make it on yourself for this journey, especially when you're in that period of 100% laser-like focus, the better. Make sure as well you're in a good place in your life. Do not do this if you don't have the time and the energy, or you're going through a rough period relationship-wise or job-wise or financially, because it will require everything from you. So the more consistency that you can have and the more security, the better. Again, it's one less thing for you to stress about. You do not want to be stressed in comp prep mentally or physically. It's just not good for the body or the mind. So be in a position of security and make sure you're in the right place in your life. If you're not, do not do it. It's not worth it. Make sure you actually want to do it as well. Like, it's not peer pressure. Like, people just want to get on stage because they want the glamour, or they might want some sort of inanimate trophy, or they're doing it for an external thing rather than an internal thing. You've got to do it for yourself. Okay, if you're not doing it for yourself first, forget about it. You don't have to get on stage to look great. When you get on stage, I think people don't understand, depending on what category you're doing, how conditioned you actually have to be versus what you might look like. So people see someone and go, oh, they're shredded, they might be beach lane, they're not shredded, they still feel good, you can still look great, eat a lot of food, but getting into comp prep, that is truly shredded. So that is a point where you are very vulnerable. You can actually look worse before you look better, and it's unnecessary if you don't love the process. So don't put yourself in a position where you're gonna deter your progress or be somewhere mentally and physically you don't need to be. My other point would be get a coach. Get a good coach. Get a coach who can oversee your process. Doesn't matter how experienced you are, it's great to have that reference point, that guidance, that accountability as well, that can be there for you, whether it's online, whether it's in person, and guide you through. And again, at those times when you're not sure, if you are doing your own programming or you have those moments of weakness, they can help you implement strategies that are successful to overcome the process and be able to get through them successfully too. So yeah, definitely have a great coach and a support network. Surround yourself with those like-minded people, the gym too, and yeah, your fellow athletes. Make sure you're in that positive environment as much as you can. I think my last bit of advice would be, you just gotta love it. Like if you don't truly love what you're doing, don't do this, because it requires everything. So just make sure you truly love it and you have that passion for it too, because it is a great experience and it's something that you want to embrace. And I believe it would be great if everyone could experience elements of it. The positivity and just the things you take out of it are unbelievable. But again, only do it if you love it. That's definitely my advice going forward for people who are looking to compete. What would I do differently next time? I think, again, gonna leave that for a separate video. I've got lots of thoughts on what I would do differently and what I've learned more specific to the science. But again, I think this video has been long enough. Thank you for tuning in as always. Guys, if you've got any questions about my journey that can possibly help you, as always, post them in the comments below. If you like this video, I know it's a long one, but I wanted to debrief. I wanted to just kind of brain bomb it out there on the screen. Kind of kept it to some points, but I just wanted to get it all out there. Like the video if you liked the video. Comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and more videos on the future as well. Let me know if you want to see anything specifically and I will create that for you. I really appreciate everyone's love and support over this time. It's been overwhelming. I'm again very grateful and very appreciative of it. I'm looking forward to making some serious gains, which we'll talk about in a new video. And I'm going to see you guys in the new series next week. So make sure you stay tuned. And as always, stay fearless.